Hi, my name is Siri. I'm Fabián's assistant. I should open this presentation. I believe he didn't know how to open up his presentation, so he told me I should do so. He will be talking about what's new in iOS, the list of the platform for the last year. I bet he will be talking about me. And besides, he will be talking about what we could do in the future with GeneXus. If you expect to listen to very strange names, we will not be talking about Android. We might be even criticizing Android. So let's now make a joke about developers. How many developers do you need to change a light bulb? None, because it's a hardware problem. Wow, you rocked, iPad. Thank you very much. Now I leave you with Fabián. Well, good morning. My name is Fabián Inthamoussu. I work in the Artech development team with the iOS generator, and as my assistant has already announced, I will be talking about the state-of-the-art of the iOS platform, the new things in new versions, and what we could do with GeneXus. So let's begin with the current situation of the platform. When we talk about the iOS, we need to begin with the App Store. In terms of applications, you see the great number that we have in the App Store. Last year we had some 410,000, and now we have more than 74,000 applications. 7,400,000, sorry. In terms of the approvals in the store, it keeps on growing and growing. Nowadays, we believe that there are more than 950 applications that are downloaded per day. In terms of the number of publishers, there are more than 190,000 publishers. This number almost doubled with respect to last year. In terms of the number that developers were paid, it has already excessed $5.5 billion in terms of money, in terms of the price of applications. We see a trend in the price of applications. In 2010, 30% of them were free and the rest were paid. But last year that percentage increased to 40%, and this year we have a trend that the number of free applications is increasing up to 50%. This is a new trend that we see in terms of app purchases, which is purchases of the same application. If we take the 25 applications that generate most profits for developers, 75% of them are free, and they only generate income through purchases within the application. In terms of the price of an application, half of the paid applications maintain a $1 price. That's very low, and in average, the average price is around $2. In terms of the use of applications, users continue to increase the need for applications. An average user right now has more than 100 applications installed in his device, which is growing in terms of what we had last year, around 84 applications. And we increased the number of 30 billion of downloads from the App Store. In terms of the number of applications right now in the App Store, 90% of them are still active. So they are kept alive in the App Store. Regarding the number of devices, in iOS we have more than 400 million devices. Of them, 84 million are iPads, which is quite an impressive number if we think that the iPad did not exist 2 years ago. In the second quarter of this year, 17 million iPads were sold. Just to put some context to this, these are more iPads than if compared to what any PC manufacturer sold in its entire line. If we talk about the market share, this these numbers, my colleague Fernando Paniza from Android, he always talks about this. In his presentation last year, he showed this, and he said that they are the ones that have the best market share. But in terms of this year's figures, Android has a big percentage, but these numbers are tricky because here we're only taking into account smartphones. They're not taking into account the iPod Touch or the iPads. So this should be the right title for this. If we go to the tablet market, these are last year's figures. iPad had 62% market share last year, and instead of that, instead of becoming smaller this year, they have even more, 68%. In terms of the web traffic share of tablets, 91% comes from iPad. The rest, I don't know what the rest of tablets are. Maybe they are inside the drawer, but iPad takes it all. Besides from market share, another important number is what happens with the profit share. Apple and the iOS platform takes 77% of all the profits from the industry. The rest have to do with the remaining 23%. That's quite an important number. Most companies will be interested in that figure. Some curiosities about the profit share. In the App Store, the first 200 applications that are more profitable generate $5.4 million per day. If compared with Android, that would be around $680,000. Another interesting number is that in the iPhone market generates more profit than all the different parts in Microsoft. So if Android dominates the market share and iPhone or Apple is leading in terms of profit share, my question is, what's more important, to have market share or the profit share? If you ask any company, or maybe even a kid, 10-year-old kid selling lemonade, what would you rather have, more money or sell more? They would say have more money, more profit. But actually the market share is important, because what happens with the so-called network effect? It is the more users you have in a platform, more benefited are those users. An example of this are telephone operators. The more users you have in your telephone line, the more your users will win. In terms of the Microsoft Windows domain, is due to the high number of Windows users. However, I think there's another reason for that. The important thing is the developers' share. And software is what made Microsoft powerful. In terms of the developers' share in iOS, we see that developers first choose the iOS platform, and only then do they move to Android, if they ever do. Why is this? Because developers they're not seeking clients. They just want to have clients who buy, and the iOS users are more prone to buying content, buying services. Another reason for developers to use the iOS platform instead of others is in what versions are the present iOS devices right now. Even though more than 50% are already in the 6X version, in less than 6 days, more than 50% of users were already adopting it. In terms of the 5X version, it was 40%, and if we add both of them, it's 46%. If we compare this with Android, what happens with it? The latest version of Android is Jelly Bean, which came out 6 months ago. The prior version, which was simultaneously launched with iOS 5, which is called Ice Cream Sandwich. And this is sort of difficult for developers when it comes to developing platforms. Let me give you a test of this. Why do developers use iPhone first? These are the applications that our clients generate with GeneXus. I don't know whether you can see this, but you see an icon. It's an Apple, and then you see Android or BlackBerry. Just take a look at how many are used with Android, BlackBerry. So this is what I wanted to sum up about the present situation in the platform. Let's now see the news. I will be talking about these 5 iOS versions, 5.0, 5.1, and 6.0. Let's begin with iOS 5. In my presentation last year, I talked about the software features. The final version had not been released yet. It was released in October last year, together with the launch of iPhone i4S. Another feature, the CD feature, is my assistant, the one you saw in the beginning of my presentation. It's a voice assistant that allows you to interact with calendar, email, client, to give you reminders or to make queries in a natural language. For example, if I want to know how many people live in Uruguay, Siri will try to find an answer and they will give you the answer. It was initially available in English, French, and German. Regarding the features of iOS 5, I won't be mentioning them because I already mentioned them last year. But the one on the right is ARC, which is for memory management in iOS. From the upgrade of Evolution 2, we have converted all the generated code in order to use these features, so you will be able to use it. This was launched on October 4th last year. And the next day, unfortunately, Steve Jobs passed away. He was a founder of Apple. He was an innovator. Continuing in time, the next iOS version that was released is 5.1, which was launched in March this year, together with the third generation iPad, or the new iPad as it is called. The features of this device were the change in the screen, where you had a retina display with a higher resolution and support for SDT. It also has a new support for Siri in Japanese. Then let's move on to iOS 6. It was announced in June this year in San Francisco. Went through a beta testing process, and the final version was released in September, together with the launch of iPhone 5. Actually, the iPhone 5 increased the size of the screen. It changed the look of the screen. It is a 4-inch screen. For those who want to see one, here we have an iPhone 5. If we compare it with the prior versions, in iPhones we see a change in the screen. So many of you might see what the trend is. This is very clear. Everyone said, okay, this will be the new iPhone then. This should be the trend. Okay, let's now get serious again and see what's new in software in iOS 6. We'll begin with Siri. It also adds compatibility to the iPad and iPod Touch of the 5th generation, and it also learned new languages: Spanish, Italian, Korean, Mandarin, Chinese, and Cantonese. Besides from those new languages, Siri also learned to absorb more content. You can ask it about sports, films, or restaurants. You can even make a reservation. If I want to have sushi for dinner, and then it will tell me what restaurants are available, and I can make a reservation at a certain restaurant. The next feature in iOS 6 was a map feature. The map application in prior iOS versions, Apple was using Google Maps, but from iOS 6 onwards, it started using its own charts. Now iOS 6 maps have vector design, which is better. When you come to zooming, you don't see the pixeling. When you rotate the map, the text do not rotate so that you can read it. And there's a row-to-row navigation capability, which is also new. There's also the flyover mode, where you can see 3D maps, which are quite impressive if you've ever tried them. In terms of developers, Maps offer two interesting entry points. First of them is the possibility to have third-party applications. You can open them with some certain information. For example, I want to open up on the Eiffel Tower, but I want to receive instructions as to how to get there. The second interaction point that they offer is the other one, which is the most interesting one in my opinion. From the map application, when you run a search of an address, You can look up in the transportation section, and third-party applications can be integrated into these applications so that you can offer extra navigation there. This works if the application is installed in the device or not. An example of this could be if I want to get to a certain place, I hit the address, I search it, and I receive options as to how to get there by metro, bus, or with third-party applications as well. Another important thing in iOS 6 is the Facebook integration. Previously it was integrated with Twitter, now it is integrated with Facebook, and you can post comments on the wall, sync it with the calendar or with a scheduler. In terms of the next point, in terms of the app purchase, this is a trend that we have seen for monetizing applications. They have added 2 features which are interesting. One, now it is possible to sell content from the rest of the stores from a third-party application without having to leave the site. I can sell music or films, or I can even sell other of my applications within my own application, which is quite interesting. Another feature of your in-app purchase, which is very interesting, is that they are categorized in 2 points. The one that activates a feature of the application or the one that provides new content, for example, downloading new recipes or videos. So a new feature that's provided in iOS 6 is that Apple will host the content for those type of applications that download things with certain advantage in the user experience. For example, the content that is being downloaded can be done while the application is not running when it is on the background. We can also provide interaction with reminders, with phone reminders. There's an API for this. There are improvements in security. Since we are using a location device, we were asked whether you wanted to allow this, and this was expanded to pictures, calendar, contacts, or reminders. Now you ask permission in order to determine your location, and also there's a possibility of distributing a message when you ask for access. So the developer might say why he will interact with contacts and what for he will be using it. Secondly, and very interesting, is a passbook. Passbook is a solution given by Apple to replace everything related to tickets, transport, bus tickets, but everything related to coupon, air tickets, etc. Everything related to Passbook has metadata provided by the developer, and the location is pass relevant, and there's a date included. All the passes could be included in applications sent by mail, or they can be added through websites as well. All the passes have a barcode that's read upon destination. For example, when you go to the airport, you have your boarding pass, and when you get to the airport, the pass already knows that it's a certain airport and a certain date. So when you get to the airport, on the screen you see the pass, you just tap it, and you just have to show the phone when you want to board. Or when I go to a concert, I just have to show the ticket. In terms of Passbook, they're dynamic. Passes are dynamic. I can update at any moment with the push notification technology. Just imagine that you're in the airport waiting to board a flight, and there's a change in the boarding gate. You could receive a notice saying that your boarding gate has changed, and this is automatically updated. This is a summary of the new things in iOS 6 that I wanted to comment. And what can we do with GeneXus about this? I thought about taking some of the applications that are already in the market that can be generated with GeneXus and how we could improve them with using iOS 6 features. First of them, Tour MVD. This is an application for tourists in Montevideo, where you can receive information on interesting sites. And with iOS 6, this could use the map interaction in order to open up a site of interest and show you how to get there. Another application is GeneXus or the Metro Mexico DF application. And there's also a possibility to integrate this to the map application. When a user is in Montevideo and wants to get to the Punta Carretas shopping center, he runs a search, and in the transport option, whether installed or not in the application, the user could tap on GeneXus as to know how to get there. In terms of a list of film titles and theaters, this application could use two features. One, to change its model and use in-app purchase to sell tickets, maybe for going to the movies. And it could also be integrated with Passport, so that when you buy a ticket, it is automatically downloaded. And when you get to the movies, the pass already has information as to the theater. I just have to show it and I get in. Second, the Punta Carretas shopping application, it could be offering discount coupons with Passbook so that you go to the shopping mall and buy things. Chistes D+. This is an application for jokes, and this provides an interaction with Facebook to post jokes on Facebook. But right now it goes directly to the Facebook application. But with iOS 6 you can do it in place without having to leave the application, and you post a joke on Facebook. And the final example that I have is the Let's Cheers application, which offers information on cocktails, and it gives me information. This could use an integration with reminders and remind me what beverages I need to buy in order to make a certain cocktail. So to sum up, iOS is in an exceptional current state, has many news for us in iOS 6, and with GeneXus it's easy to do it. Thank you very much.